Michael,
Hi, Mike. Governor Holcomb.
come join us. You're a journalist. I found that this. So I'm Rod Weber. My 2020 film is called 2020: The Dumpster Fire. It's on Apple TV, Amazon. You can find it all over the place. And we're doing one on 2024. So I can't find hardly anyone here except this guy to interview who isn't a journalist. And so I was just. Yeah. So.
I thought you were going to say who isn't a Fed.
Well, I mean, that might be possible, too. Can you tell me your perspective as one of the trillions of journalists here?
Yeah, I mean, I even got an NYPD officer to concede, and with a chuckle, that the ratio between journalists and just ordinary rally-goers or attendees is, like, laughably excessive, which I could have told you right off the bat was going to be the case. There's always way more hype about these sorts of things by the press themselves. I mean, I'm curious what your estimate is of the ratio between just kind of like passers-by, curious observers who aren't really participating, and actual like dyed-in-the-wool.
I want to say it's
like 50 to 1 or something.
I was going to say there's about 60% journalists, 35 lefties, and 5% Trumpers.
Right. Well, that's why I'm not here to interview any actual participants. I'm here to report on the reporters. That's the more fascinating phenomenon to me.
Yeah?
I mean, they're the ones who are the most outsized presence, so if they're the ones like dominating the event, then they warrant the scrutiny.
On that topic, everyone's pigpiling on Matt Taibbi. How do you feel about that?
Are they piling him?
I mean, just as
recently, or just
no, just the same.
General,
it's the same shit as you.
They think that he is colluding, not with Russia, but with Elon Musk, apparently, even though he couldn't have been more clear from the outset of the whole Twitter files ordeal that Musk is not dictating his journalistic choices. And every time that he is criticized by somebody who would have previously referred to him or thought of him as some sort of political, like-minded sort of traveler, they totally ignore the substance of what he's reported vis-a-vis the Twitter files. I mean, you have hard evidence in documentary, verifiable form that you don't have to rely on anonymous sources to corroborate. You don't have to take Taibbi's word for anything. He's giving you primary source material that establishes beyond any dispute the intricate level of interoperation,
And so,
security state services, and social media. And if you don't find that to be a worthwhile topic of inquiry, then that says more about you than it does about Taibbi.
And yeah, so when you sat in front of Congress, kind of the position that he put out there was, well, you know, kind of everyone's biased. Any source that I've ever gone to, of course they're going to have their point of view or their angle. So who cares? I mean, is that how it came across to you?
I think, it came across to me that he was just giving a basic summation of ordinary journalistic practice, which is that when you do any story that requires reliance on sources, you have to make a judgment as to the credibility of the source, the veracity of the material that they're presenting to you, if any, or the information that they're conveying to you. And so, in that sense, there's really nothing conceptually different with what he's done with regard to the material that he's been given or that he's obtained from Twitter. But his adversaries, especially the Democrats on that committee who are haranguing him, are trying to make it seem like he's doing something radically unorthodox or that is sort of in conflict with standard journalistic convention, which it really isn't. The only thing that's unconventional as to his journalistic endeavor with regard to the Twitter files is the means of publication. That's what that's the one condition that he agreed to do, which is publish at least firstly on Twitter itself.
Well, I get
it's not really anything different, and you don't see any kind of massive outpour of outrage or people saying how appalled they are when every single day the Washington Post or the New York Times or somebody runs 20 stories that are reliant on anonymous sources. But it's the focus and the angle here that makes people dwell on Taibbi's reliance on anonymous sources, or not even anonymous sources, that brings forth this disproportionate focus on his sourcing methodology that in the way that's almost never applied to the more mainstream or reputable outlets.
Yeah, no, well, I think, kind of the complaint is that they showed that Twitter showed preference towards Trump in the Trump campaign. That they allowed tweets to go out there, and Taibbi tweeted about that maybe once in the entirety of the Twitter files, and basically to cover his ass, where he's put out hundreds of others, in regard to the opposition.
Well, I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt that if Taibbi did have a breadth of material that showed how there was untoward collusion or collaboration or interaction between Trump campaign officials and Twitter, that he would report on it. I mean, this idea that he's some...
No, I see. Okay, so let me tell you.
He's some partisan.
So, no, this is the thing. 2020 Dumpster Fire, the movie that I told you that I directed, which came out in 2020, resulted in a massive FBI investigation, which went on for over a year. They investigated me, my wife, my friends, my family. They harassed us on dozens of occasions. They put forward at least 5 grand juries in 2 different states. And me and Matt Taibbi are friendly, and he used to DM with me all the time until I brought this up. And in fact, they were using comedy tweets. The same. So Steve Kimball, the FBI agent in charge, was the Boston Marathon bomber agent, and he had fuck the marathon bombers. But he was using comedy tweets from Key and Peele and Tosh.0, to try to make his convictions. They did the same shit with me and my team, in order to try to get that conviction. When I put that out to Taibbi, motherfucker didn't give a fuck.
What's that got to do with the manner in which...
Journalist to journalist, impartiality, reporting, and choosing...
issue, right? It's just...
I mean,
what he's reporting on.
You were just saying that, people are making it he's a partisan. And, clearly, in my experience, absolutely he is.
I don't even understand how that indicates what direction is he a partisan in?
Basically, yeah. I put out a lefty film. He doesn't want to be involved with anything on the left.
I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that interpretation that he doesn't want to, quote, be involved with anything on the left. I don't know the specifics of your story. I'm not going to,
I can forward you all the, the DMs.
Yeah, go ahead if you like. I just think that Taibbi would be driven to whatever is a legitimate story as pertains to the sort of ambit that he's dealing in now with regard to Twitter. So, if you had something that relates specifically to the whole question of security state integration with social media companies, and it illuminates some sort of bias against the left, I have a very hard time believing that he would be disinclined ideologically.
Okay, so how about Peter Thiel influence circles? Basically you get Thiel and everyone from Thiel Media, whether it's Eric Weinstein or Joe Rogan, basically putting out their agenda, and then getting Elon Musk involved on it. And if you don't think that Elon Musk is a player, then come on.
But I still don't understand, how does that implicate Taibbi as not covering something?
Okay, no, forget about Taibbi. I thought you were just talking about in general.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were talking about Taibbi and that he was refusing to cover that.
No, I'm just saying, moving on. just about in general.
I think that's a legitimate target to journalistic inquiry as well. I don't deny there being a whole sort of panoply of angles on the current state of politics that one might cover. I just think that this idea that because somebody covers one thing but not the other, that means they have this intractable bias, or that means that they're trying to put, that means they're trying to distort perceptions, or they're trying to disadvantage one partisan side versus the other. I think you got to establish that with some greater evidence beyond just a disparity in what coverage somebody chooses to prioritize. I get that line of criticism all the time.
Yeah, they go after. It's become a binary, and people have gone after you because you kind of split the difference a little bit. That you don't, stick to the left, which is where you came up, and so people call you a right winger, and I don't think you're a right winger. But they've hammered you in the same way they've hammered Taibbi.
Yeah, they can call me that if they'd like. The notion of being right-wing now has become so diluted that it's almost meaningless. Anybody now who deviates at all from the standard line of the left liberal sort of media consensus is therefore assumed to be right-wing, even if they don't express anything that even comes close to resembling like an actual ideological right-wing belief. So I've become a nerd to that allegation at this point. It doesn't matter to me anymore. So
I will say, yeah, no, yeah, it looks like it's popping off finally. But thank you so much for talking. Look me up, and I'll DM you or something.